Hi, I'm Van Havig of Gigantic Brewing Company, and this is the Brewer to Brewer podcast from All About Beer. My guest today is Sam Pecoraro from Von Ebert Brewing, and he's here for a conversation that goes beyond the brew house and into topics that matter to brewing professionals and curious beer drinkers. First, please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media at allaboutbeer. And to support journalism in the beer space, please check out allaboutbeer.com/support. We'll get into the conversation in just a minute, but first, this message from our sponsors.
Malteurop Malting Company is proud to introduce the new Malta 2-row, grown and malted in Mexico. At Malteurop, they're proud to be growing and producing malt in Mexico. They work hand in hand with Mexican farmers to ensure the best barley, which is then processed in their own local Mexico malt house to create this exceptional Malta 2-row. This product is a superior quality 2-row base malt and provides consistent quality designed to satisfy your desire to brew a true Mexican lager. Contact Malteurop today and visit malteuropmaltingco.com. If you're running a brewery, owner, or operator, Beer 30 by the Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and to receive 3 free months of Beer 30. First Tea is a proud sponsor of the Brewer to Brewer podcast. First Tea offers more than tea, bringing herbs and botanicals from across the globe to your doorstep. Be it flower, root, or leaf, contact First Tea to find colorful, fragrant, and flavorful botanicals. Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA.com to find out more.
Okay, let's get this rolling. First, a bit about my guest today. Sam Pecoraro is the brewmaster at Von Ebert Brewing in beautiful Portland, Oregon. Before that, his brewing experience includes time spent with Breakside Brewery, the Commons Brewery, and Burnside Brewing, all basically in Portland, Oregon. Since 2018, Von Ebert has expanded significantly and has received back-to-back GABF medals in American IPA, as well as GABF and World Beer Cup medals for their flagship pills. His brewing ethos is best expressed in Von Ebert's signature motto, where tradition meets evolution. So Sam, thanks for doing this with me. You were kind of honestly the first person I thought of with what I want to get into. So I'm kind of stoked.
Well, awesome. First of all, thanks for having me, Van. I want to start off and say I went back and I listened the last couple of days, listened to your episode with Matt Gallagher, and near the end of it, I kind of got why you reached out to me. I think it's going to be a really awesome conversation.
Good, cool.
If anybody hasn't gone back and listened to that, I would definitely, especially near the end of it, I think it was a great segue into what we want to talk about.
Yeah. So in case people haven't listened to it, I am a different generation of brewer than Sam is. I sort of think of myself as kind of a second generation brewer. You know, you have the old original kind of, in Portland, the super early guys, the Widmers, the Carl Lockerts, people like that. You know, I would put Ken Grossman obviously in there as well. And I'm in that generation of brewers that kind of came up in the sort of first sort of nationwide craft beer boom in the mid 90s. And Sam, if I'm correct, you started brewing 2009, 10, somewhere in there?
Yeah, I think I started volunteering at Burnside Brewing in maybe December of 2010, somewhere around there. I might be off a little bit.
Just the tail end of 10 there. So the thing is I have perceived for a while that there's kind of there's nothing negative or anything about this, but there's just a sort of difference in how brewers generationally think about beer. So the first question I really want to get into is, you know, at Von Ebert, you've got this this motto, this where tradition meets evolution. How how do you really think about that? Like what's going on there?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different facets to that, right? I mean, tradition can mean a ton of different things. Tradition can mean
Sure.
the way things have always been done, the way that things started out. You know, I don't know, think about like German lager brewing tradition, right? I mean, you can read 8 different German texts and, get 6 different answers to things.
Sure.
They're all
Sure.
in some way traditional, but maybe not all the same. But where tradition meets evolution, what that really means to us and what we talk about internally is using that traditional outlook and that maybe basic processes or I should say foundational, not basic, foundational processes, and building on those and kind of making them in our own image, I suppose. An example of that might be some of the pilsners that we've made, right? This isn't novel. This is, and tons of breweries have done this, but we could layer new innovative hop varietals or products into what is looked at as a traditional German fermentation program.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and it's not just I think we're probably going to talk about hop packs at some point here. I
Oh,
don't think we can get through an hour long
only if you want to.
podcast without Van bringing up hop backs. But yeah, that also goes to IPAs, right? You maybe don't think about West Coast IPA or Northwest IPA, or any other type of IPA as having like some sort of tradition. But I mean, even at this point, what 8 years in, hazy IPA has traditions.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And just
totally.
just always looking to continuously improve and evolve.
So so when I started brewing, the thing that got a lot of people my age into brewing was that beer had become so industrialized. There was like this belief that breweries were just kind of big chemical factories, and and a lot of what that kind of original craft movement was about, at least my perception, is it was deindustrializing. You're bringing beer production back to kind of a human scale, right? And things like, I mean, I will tell you that things like hop oil in the 90s were like anathema to anything, or anathema, if you want to pronounce it that way, to what we felt we were doing. And I feel that especially among younger brewers, like those concepts are like completely out the window.
Yeah, I think I think you probably picked the right generation to talk to. I feel
Yeah.
like if you entered the industry around 2010, probably half of your career, I think certainly half of my career, I've I've gone without a boogeyman, right? Where your career has been, I don't know, 75% boogeyman, probably. And
Honestly, I would say 100%.
yeah. And I think brewers that have maybe been in the industry for 3 to 5 years at this point, um, it hasn't been the reason that they got into the industry. Um, for me, I don't know. Maybe it was a part of the reason I got in was anti big beer. I don't feel that way anymore, especially about the people that work for big
Okay,
beer.
no,
But
no, no.
some of the processes, I don't know. I think there's a lot to learn there. You go to national MBAs and listen to very smart people that work for big companies, and I don't know. I've never learned more from anybody than listening to them.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I've always had an enormous amount of respect for the brewers at those places. I guess the deindustrialization is sort of like, it's more about, well, we always called it traditional processes and traditional raw materials, that no one in craft back in the 90s or early 2000s was really interested in, I'm just going to throw out weird crap here, like PVPP, right? We were all looking at, can we figure out how to use isinglass, because no one had used isinglass in the United States in God knows how many decades, you know? And and those concepts kind of became a North Star for a lot of people. Like if you I got two kind of quick stories. One is if you talk to Larry Bell at Bell's, man, that guy has hard lines on what he will and won't do in beer. And he is but very, very traditional. So you talk about hop oils, and he's like, no, that's not Bell's, you know. And then the other one is Victory. I love this one. Victory Brewing in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. My buddy Scott Dietrich. I honestly can't remember if Scott's still there. If you are, hello, Scott. But he was the brewmaster at Victory kind of through the 2000s and a little later into the 2010s. And Victory is also a whole hop user. And Scott went through like a bunch of work to figure out how much money they could save by going to pellets. And his boss, Ron Barchet, went, "Wow, Scott, this work is great. Look at this money we could save. Thank you for doing this. This is impressive work. You did so much, blah, blah, blah. We will make this change when I am dead and in the fucking grave." Because, he was just hard lines about what they're doing, right? So, what is your North Star for quality and tradition?
And I want to like dive into those two stories a little bit more. I think I think there's more there, right? Like there, at least in my head, there's a very big difference between, let's say, adding something to a beer that is maybe questionable because of its either safety or impact, either environmentally or health wise, right? And then there's just straight up raw romanticism.
Right.
Right. And I think that the raw romanticism, I don't really have any interest in that. Just for the sake of it, being, oh, that's the way it was, and it's like it's real pretty, and it's traditional and it sounds good. Yeah, that doesn't interest me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What about the other story?
Oh no, I guess that was each side of those stories.
Oh, the same one. Okay. Yeah. Full disclosure, you were joking around about the hop back. We use whole hops at Gigantic, and that's not for a romantic reason. We use them because we're not very big. We never planned on getting very big, and being in the valley, it just
you're a half hour away from grabbing them from
and it's just a way to get better hop selection.
Yep.
That's honestly what it's about. Anyway, neither here nor there. So I'm going to ask you a few things and like your sort of opinion on them. And some of these I am, when I say I'm struggling, I don't mean that I'm struggling to accept them or not. I'm struggling to figure out where I sit on this issue, right? So you look at yeast companies like Omega that are coming out with these genetically modified yeasts to do various things. It doesn't matter what it is. Do you look at that as like awesome? Or is that sort of like, I don't know how I feel about that?
Man, you started with the hardest one for sure. I thought you were going to save that one for the end.
I think it's the most interesting one.
Okay, so let's separate the question into, is it awesome to use them or is it awesome that they exist, right? I do think it's awesome that they exist because I think we're learning a lot from them. I think there's, research being done and things coming out that, are obviously very useful, whether you use those yeast strains or not. Now, using them, I don't know, man. I'm probably in the same position as you. Part of me wants to say, if the consumer wants transparency, then transparency should be given. But then the other part of me says, well, I don't know. What if it's a filtered beer and it's just more of a process, right? And like the yeast doesn't even make it into the finished product.
Yeah.
Then should you be alerting the consumer to something that's not even in the product? I don't know. What do you think?
My issue with them is a little more brewer philosophical. In other words, let's just take these ALDC strains. And for anyone who doesn't know, ALDC, I can't remember what it is. I want to say alpha-acetolactate, but that's not what it is. Do you remember what ALDC is?
No, I think you got the first part right, and then
Yeah,
decarboxylase.
DC is decarboxylase. Alpha-acetolactate decarboxylase. That's what it is. And anyway, the point is that it interrupts basically the diacetyl production process, so that you don't really have diacetyl production from your yeast. And for me, I'm kind of like, shouldn't you be a better brewer than to need that? And if you need that, and if it's a couple days, how many breweries really need to worry about a couple days? Maybe I'm entirely wrong there.
Well, why? What? Let me push back and be devil's advocate on that.
Sure. Yeah. Please.
Why, if why do things the hard way? Like, if you like, why just not have a hop back?
Because if we always take the easy way out, we lose a skill set, and I think we lose understanding.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a straw man, though, right? That's like, no, nobody's claiming always take the easy way out, but there are some things that I think are low hanging fruit that might be, really advantageous to your production schedule, or and we actually don't use, or sorry, we do use ALDC,
Sure.
particularly, especially in dry hop beers. Yeah, and it's a tank time thing.
Yeah, no, I totally
cut
know.
a couple days off of a heavily dry hop beer.
Yeah, and I get it if you really need the time. I guess what I'm sort of saying is I think the fact of the matter is especially now in 2025, right? If you look at most breweries, and I don't think your brewery's included in this, most breweries have just lots of excess capacity. Which means tank residence time isn't an issue for most breweries. And when I say most, I'm probably talking about 90% of the breweries in the United States right now. I get it, you guys, and I want to talk about what's going on with your brewery in a little bit, but you guys are a little bit of the exception to the rule currently in the United States in terms of capacity. You know what I mean? And I get it. I get it. Here's the thing about those, especially those genetically modified yeast strains. In a weird way, I would rather work with that than work with an exogenous enzyme, personally. And that I think has to do with the fact that, the yeast genome, the information is all there in the genome, and they're just using CRISPR to turn on and off those functions, and I'm oddly more comfortable with that than exogenous enzymes. Again, this goes back to me for like the initial part of brewing for me, and that's why I think this conversation is interesting, right? And I totally get your point about LDC, and especially because we all know, with, like you're pointing out, with dry hop beers, depending on the hop and the amount and the yeast strain you're using, right? Like what kind of hop creep times do you guys see? Give me a bad example, like that.
Like 5 to 7 days.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's an awful lot of time. Right. And for you guys, do you think that's yeast strain that you're using?
Yeah, it's yeast strain and hop varietal for sure.
But both. Yeah. So it's the two big reasons.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to fight that. And I also get to that, like those GM ALDC strains, there's only, as far as I know, a couple of them right now. It's not a big catalog, right? And then it's the same thing with like them flicking on and off this haze creation gene. I'm always just like, that's one where I'm really like, oh man, can't we be better brewers? And I don't mean that hazy's bad. Hey, look, that's a marketing thing. I'm cool with it. I just mean using normal technique to be able to control beer clarity.
Yeah, well, there's way more qualified brewers to argue with you about hazy stuff, but I do want to make a point on the ALDC thing, right? So I can't remember where I heard it, but David Walker had this awesome quote about great brewers controlling all inputs. And when you think about like, oh, a couple days in a tank, right? That's not just tank time. That's not fermentation capacity. That's also labor. That's energy efficiency.
It's time.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than just tank time. So
No.
I don't know. I think when we assess it on the whole, it works for us.
Yeah, so like I'm gonna jump ahead to this just for people that are unfamiliar with Von Ebert. But you guys started out, um, why don't you give me like a quick, concise Von Ebert timeline?
Yep. So 2018, we opened up in the Pearl District in Portland with a 10-barrel brew house.
Yeah.
Grew that to about 3,800 barrels over about 6 years.
Yeah, that's a lot in a tent.
Yeah, it was, and it was the only reason we did it was because we had plans for a production facility, and it was a way to just kind of bridge that gap between
Yeah.
pub and production. But it was
Yeah.
extremely inefficient.
Yeah.
Especially labor wise, it made no sense. The building was not built for that at all. The equipment was not built for it.
Yeah, for people that don't know, the Pearl District is a heavily
Yeah,
built up inner, central city kind of area. It's posh, but
yeah. Not only was the building not built for it, but the neighborhood also,
yeah,
the street and surrounding infrastructure were not.
yeah.
In 2019, we opened up a second brew pub on the Glendoveer Golf Course in East Portland. That was a 7-barrel brew house that was designed to do more like mixed culture and lager beer. We've sort of adjusted away from mixed culture. We still do have the program, but we've really downsized it to really fit consumer demand. And then, at the beginning of 2024, when we decided to really move forward with the production facility, we had an opportunity to move into an old brewery space, Ecliptic Brewing in the Mississippi neighborhood. And in the past year and a half, have really gone through a giant renovation and a new build out, and purchased Pelican Brewing's 5-vessel 30-barrel system from out in Tillamook, moved that in here, and are rapidly growing now, on pace for about 11,000 barrels this year.
Yeah, that's a huge jump. And I kind of want to talk about that transition, and I want to talk about the difference between kind of being a pub brewer and being a production brewer. But right now we're going to take a short break, and we're going to have a little message from our sponsors, and we're going to come right back for more conversation with Sam Pecoraro of Von Ebert Brewing. So stay tuned.
Did you know that lemon myrtle actually has more lemon aromatics than lemons? Rich aromas, delicious flavors, and bright colors. This is what First Tea's herbs and botanicals can infuse into craft beer. Email info@firsttea.com, that's FIRSDTEA.com, to learn more about using a wide range of herbs and botanicals. If you're running a brewery, owner, or operator, Beer 30 by the Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and to receive 3 free months of Beer 30. Malteurop Malting Company is proud to introduce the new Malta 2-row, grown and malted in Mexico. At Malteurop, they're proud to be growing and producing malt in Mexico. They work hand in hand with Mexican farmers to ensure the best barley, which is then processed in their own local Mexico malt house to create this exceptional Malta 2-row. This product is a superior quality 2-row base malt and provides consistent quality designed to satisfy your desire to brew a true Mexican lager. Contact Malt Europe today and visit malteuropemaltingco.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Once again, I'm Van Havig with Gigantic Brewing. I'm here with Sam Pecoraro of Von Ebert, and we're going to talk about this kind of big transition from sort of a pub brewery that was kind of square peg round hole into a small production facility into having like a full blown production facility. I mean, how has that been for you, that pub brewer to production brewer transition?
Oh, it's had its hiccups for sure. Yeah, I think we made a ton of mistakes, a lot of mistakes. None of them not fixable. A lot of them really revolved around thinking that old systems could adapt to new environments, and
Wait, let's unpack that for
yeah.
just a second. So you mean existing systems that you bought and modifying some of them to your methodologies?
Oh, no, sorry. Thank you for
No.
clarifying that. No, I mean systems as in like data collection,
Oh,
communications, internal, forecasting, things like that.
yeah,
Um,
all that difficulty of, oh my God, I have a lot more moving parts.
yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't translate well, especially when you're, my position the last year was really more of a project manager on the build out. And then, luckily we have a fantastic team. Aaron Gray Kemplin, our director of sales, is amazing, has really leveled us up and made us act like adults on the sales side. Eric Ebel, our director of operations, has done a fantastic job and has really helped me kind of, correct a lot of the errors that we made along the way. And then, the other half of that, not just the systems, but like the physical space. You've worked in so many breweries. Did you ever work somewhere that you wouldn't change 50% of your surroundings? I don't know, maybe gigantic. Maybe you're happy with gigantic, but
Well, yeah. But I mean, I built this place from the ground up, right? It's a different story. Like it was whatever I wanted to do. But no, I know what you mean. Like you walk into a new brewery that you take over, whatever, however that is, doesn't really matter. And I always feel like the first year you're there, you're just trying to figure out what you want to do with everything. And then it takes you another couple of years to be like, okay, this is finally my brewery, and that's everything from figuring out process to changing things around physically to whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So I can only imagine with you, like, I mean, you're totally re-renovating this building and everything.
yeah,
Marrying a couple different systems, brewing systems.
yeah, yep, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a lot of complaining, but none of that was complaints. I've loved every minute of it, and I think we're a much stronger company for it. And yeah,
Yeah, you learn a lot about that. I always not that this is the case for you because you had this experience a long time ago, but I always tell people that the hardest brewery they're ever going to work in is the second brewery that they work in. It doesn't matter what the first is, and it doesn't matter what the second is. But the second one's going to be the hardest one you're ever going to work in. And people ask, why? I'm like, well, the thing is, your first brewery, you're learning specific knowledge, right? And you may work there for 8 years or something, and you think, I know it all. Look at me. I am a professional brewer now. And then you go into your second brewery, and suddenly you're like, wait, shit. I thought I knew how to mash in, but now I got to figure out what it actually means to mash in. Right. And then once you've done it at a second brewery, you're like, okay, yeah, all right. It's not so bad. Um, how has it been with I mean, like, how has your the number of brewers you've been working with is like how I'm assuming at one point at Von Ebert back in the Pearl when it was just that single place, it was what mainly just you and Sean in the beginning, right?
yeah. Van, I have never vetted this, but I guarantee that if you looked in at every brewery in Oregon, Von Ebert in the Pearl District, the last like 6 months we were there was probably the least labor efficient brewery in all of Oregon. It was crazy. I got to give credit to Eric for actually being able to figure out ways to make that much beer out of there. Um, for people that haven't been there, it was classic. Like I don't know, some of the rock bottoms were like this, like
So it
fishbowl. hallway to the bathroom was in between the cellar and
Yeah.
the fermentation space. Yeah,
Yeah.
really just
Matt Cole, bless his heart, great guy, known him for a long time. Matt Cole built a 90s brew pub in like 2009 or something like that, you know?
yeah, no knock on the design. We just took it to a place that it wasn't designed for. I mean, I think that
Mhm.
was, you know,
Yeah.
very well laid out for a, you know, 1500 to 1900 barrels, but
Brew
you know,
pub.
we
Yeah.
doubled that and
Yep.
it didn't work. So anyway, back to your question about labor. Yeah, we started out with 3 brewers in that building, ended up with I would say 6.5 probably, and a couple brewers at the Glendoveer location.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
now, you know, so I don't know, call it 8 or 9, I guess. And now we're at 11 or 12. So, like, doubling, we didn't need to double the amount of people. We just needed to get out of that building and get more labor efficient.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I mean, Van, we had to keg individual kegs and roll them down the hallway. I mean, you couldn't even put anything on a pallet at 3,800 barrels. Yeah, it was bad.
Well, and weren't you also, you had a mobile canner come in and you were doing that
Yep,
on the street?
yep, on the sidewalk
Yeah.
for I think I want to say we started that in summer of 2020. So we did that for I don't know 4 years.
Yeah. Crazy town.
Yeah,
It's,
with no cold storage.
oh, right.
Yeah, so you know when we canned on the sidewalk, we had to you know coordinate to get the distributor to come pick everything up. You know within hours.
Oh, man. Oh, God. It's sort of the exact opposite. Did you ever hear the stories about barley browns when they just had the mill out back? They were just milling outside at the back doors. Exact opposite kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Hey, you know what though? Saying all that, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a lot of really great creative problem solving and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
lot of awesome memories in the building.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things, right? If you don't have problems, it's harder to learn, you know? I mean, we have at Gigantic, and this was before Gigantic, this was when I was running Rock Bottoms too. I had a certain basic set of rules in the brewery. And one rule was if something went wrong, if anything goes wrong, anything at all, the first question is everyone okay? Is everyone safe? If everyone's safe, it's all going to be fine. Okay. Second thing is, can you fix it? If everyone's safe and you can fix the problem, no matter how crazy town you've got to do to fix it, whatever it is, right? Then you go to question 3. Did you learn something from it? And if the answer is everyone's safe, we fixed it and we learned something, it went from a bad day to a good day. Like, and that has always been like this may have been hard, but this was a really good day, you know?
We've I don't think we've ever talked about that before, and with a little bit different wording, we do the exact same thing. I don't know where that comes from. I don't think I read that anywhere. Maybe I
It's
did.
awesome.
But
And
that last question, yeah, that last question we always ask, okay, how are we going to prevent it next time?
which is the same kind of thing, right? Um, I think it can be expanded a little bit more to greater learning than that, right? Because sometimes there's a mistake um, that happens. Uh, let's say, please, no one write into All About Beer and get nitpicky about this. But let's say your brewery, um, uh, let's say your brewery is making an IPA and you dry hop it, and someone doesn't do the right diacetyl testing, and you crash it early, and you're left with some diacetyl in the beer, and then you taste it, and you're like, ah, son of a, and you have to go about and do something to get rid of that diacetyl, whether it's adding ALDC or just warming the tank up in time or whatever it is, and then you get it solved, right? Yes, you should 100% be looking at how can we prevent this. There's easy steps there. But sometimes it takes young brewers that problem to then get the insight into how does diacetyl form? What is going on here? What are the process? How can I understand this? You know, I used to have this habit at Rock Bottom of every like second week of January going to the bookstore next door and buying the worst calendar I could find on sale because I didn't want to spend money, and so I'd always buy it in January. And I bought a Bruce Lee calendar one year, and I thought it was going to be funny, and it turned out to be awesome. And there's this. Hold on, I have it right here. Now I can't get to it. There's a Bruce Lee quote that's something like, knowledge is but a moment. A true understanding is a continual process without ending." Something like that. And I'm always like, that's brewing, man. Working towards understanding, right? Not knowing, but understanding. And sometimes mistakes lead to understanding, even though you had knowledge before. You know? And I think
I
that
can't. I can't remember the exact quote, but up above the brewer's desk at the Pearl District, we had a Bruce Lee quote as well, and yeah, it sounded familiar to that.
yeah, it's something like that. Turns out Bruce Lee was kind of a smart guy. I had no idea. I just grew up being all like kung fu. Um, whatever. Cool. I want to look at how much time we have here. I don't want to ask you that question yet. I want to ask, okay, let's talk about this. This is we're gonna get feisty here. So I want to talk about innovation in beer style. I don't know what that really means, except I need to phrase it as something, right? So you've been around long enough. I don't think this is a controversial statement. It feels to me like a lot of the craft world has narrowed style wise to what's commercially available. That and I sort of always thought this was going to happen, but that we American craft brewers, for the most part, are now producing almost entirely versions of hop forward beer, being as general as possible, and lager, right? And there's a few little things here and there, but uh, man, no one is really, hardly anyone's making British style brown ale kind of stuff. People aren't really doing Belgians very much anymore. Like the the world is kind of narrowed for what's on the beer shelf, right? Um, is that I mean, and you've got a couple of pubs that you're feeding to. Is that a concern? Do you care? Do you miss that?
So the way we've talked about it internally is this sort of three-circle Venn diagram, right?
Mhm.
You've got the beers that owners want you to brew, right?
Yep.
Or owners want brewers to brew, I guess we should say that, or want their brewery to brew. You've got
Yep.
an overlapping circle that's beers brewers want to brew.
Yep.
And then the third circle intersecting both of those is what consumers want to drink, right?
Yep.
And if you're only in one of those circles, you're probably in a real rough spot. If you're
Okay.
only in the triple overlapping section, you're probably doing pretty good, but
Yeah.
you're maybe not being adventurous enough. You're not
Yeah, you're,
innovating.
you're very
You're not
narrow.
pushing the envelope. Yeah, you're very, very narrow, right? Just doing what the consumer wants. You're not swinging for the fences. You're not taking chances. You're probably not
Yeah.
learning as much as you could be.
Yeah.
So we try and I don't know. We never put a percentage on it, but I would say that we're probably 75% in that triple overlap center of the Venn
Sure.
diagram,
Yeah. Sure.
and the other 25% split between the other three.
Right.
If we veered off and went and did everything that just us brewers wanted to do,
Yeah.
oh man, that would be a messed up tap list, man. That would be like you'd have Rauchmerzen on year round. You'd have some mixed culture stuff, and I think German pills would still be there for sure. But yeah, it just wouldn't overlap with what the consumer wants.
You would have like a
So
2015 tap list.
yeah, exactly. But you know what? Back then, the industry was in a spot that it kind of didn't matter what you had on tap. And I'm not even saying
Totally.
from a quality perspective, just from a draftless product mix
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
Like people were willing to try anything. And now
Yeah.
the novelty's worn off. What I
Yeah.
brought up earlier, the boogeyman has kind of faded somewhat into the background, at least from the consumer's perspective, probably. And yeah, we're just in a different spot now. So I don't know. I don't even know if I answered your question. That was like 4 minutes ago. I think I forgot what it actually was.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I think about
Well, yeah. What do you think? What's your answer to that?
my answer to that is, there's a lot of beers that I miss, and they're difficult, and we don't make some of them because they're difficult to sell. You in any size brewery, well, maybe not any size, in most size breweries, um, if you can't make a beer and sell it out in, say, let's just say 4 to 5 months, to be very generous, it's kind of hard to make that beer. And so you take something like, I don't know, you take beers that I would really like to be making, at Northern British Bitters, right? They're lovely beers. I think they're fantastic. But we've got a 15 barrel system. We can do 15s, but it's tough to move 15 barrels of that, even with 3 tap rooms, and it's tough to move that in the marketplace, kind of thing. So it's sort of, to some extent, I think that your size of your brewery and the marketplace do kind of dictate what you can and can't make. You know, if you were making a ton of money, you could just dump it down the drain and that'd be fine. You know,
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
you know,
very good point. Yeah,
um,
funny, real quick, funny story. You brought up this almost has nothing to do with this conversation, other than you brought up, or I brought up Raukmerzen earlier,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
about how long it took to sell. I think two batches ago, maybe. I mean, it was on tap at our pubs for like a year,
yeah,
and
yeah,
this was a 14 barrel batch. It was
yeah,
really good. We liked it quite a bit. I thought it turned out great. But we had a can of it, and I think it was a year, or some cans left over, and it was like a year and 8 months old, and we sent it to GABF,
yeah,
and we put it into aged beer because it had
yeah.
been in there for well over a year and 7 months probably. And the feedback we got back was no aged character. So if you are going to make a tap anchor, you should probably do something with some a lager strain and some smoke.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All the phenols, right? They're
Yeah,
antioxidants.
yeah.
Yeah. And plus it's a Märzen, so it's got some dark malt in there, antioxidant, right? So we brewed a porter. It's like a year old, man. And it's crazy. We only had it on draft, and you can drink it right now, and you're like, turns out it tastes like porter. You know,
What's the name of that beer?
we're we we're calling it Matter Baby.
Matter baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I live.
And then
What?
the joke is, people say, "What's the matter, babe?" And you say, "Nothing. What's the matter with you?"
Nice. I think
It's a
there's a
dumb
few
joke.
jokes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know this, but I think I live, I don't know, 7, 8 blocks from your Gleason location.
Yeah, from Robot. Yeah.
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 Yeah. If you've got that on, I'll swing over and have a year old porter.
We might. I don't know. We might. You can. I mean, you can go see. Call them up. There's a telephone there. Yeah.
That's rare.
Yeah. The staff answers it. It's astonishing. It's astonishing. It's like living in the '90s. Of
Can I ask you a question?
course. Yeah.
All right. You brought up, and I'm not baiting you as much as you probably think I'm about to bait you.
No.
Um, you brought up Portland water on when you were talking to Matt.
Sure.
And do you filter your water?
Carbon filter. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
got a big giant. Giant. You know what I mean? We have an appropriately sized carbon filter.
got it.
To
So you filter, you don't add to the water.
correct.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're trying to neutralize chlorine.
yeah.
But other than that, we don't really use salts. And that is, I mean, I get that's kind of controversial or whatever, but I mean, I think I said it in the last podcast, but like, look, man, if we all made the same beer, it would be really boring, you know. Um, and so okay, okay. Here's a question for you. Is there answer one of these two questions. They're similar, but not the same. Is there a difference between the best beer and the beer you want to be brewing? Alternatively, what would you rather be brewing? Your beer, defined any way you want, or the best beer?
Oh, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah,
I feel like I need to write all that down.
but I mean,
well, I think so I'll take the second question, right? And to
yeah,
clarify, it's the best beer or my beer,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like when I look up at a tap list with a bunch of beers that, I designed or that, our team designed that we, worked on together, all I see is just a bunch of opportunities for improvement. Like every single one of them, I'm like, oh, I'd change this, I'd change this, I'd change
Yeah, but
that
you're a
about this one.
brewer. You're a brewer. That's
Yeah,
natural.
but I don't know, Dan. I think you probably think that way, but I think a lot of people don't. And I'm fortunate to work with a whole bunch of people that do think that way,
Right.
constantly trying to figure out how to get better. So I don't know if best. I mean, is that looking at somebody else's beer and saying, "Oh, that beer is amazing. I wish I could make that."
I suppose. I mean, I, I, I think we've all had the experience of being somewhere, it doesn't matter where, and having a beer and just thinking, my God, this is really, really good, you know? And then you might think about a beer that you make in that same style or whatever. And I mean, let's just say you are in North Germany and you think you found the perfect North German Pilsner, right? Do you want to be making that beer or do you want to be making your interpretation of North German Pilsner?
Okay, that's the perfect way to ask that question. Because now I have an answer. I
Okay.
want that same reaction from myself about the beer I make that is a Northern
Okay.
German Pilsner.
Okay.
I want to
So,
have that same, oh man, wow, I can't believe this. Wow, that is like I'm gonna remember that sip. I'm gonna remember that that pint or that half liter or whatever. Um, yeah, I want that same reaction, but I want to do it my way. I don't want to just like I mean, come on, nobody wants to like clone brews or whatever.
some
Sorry,
weirdos do.
sorry, I think that's actually the name of a book. I don't want to. I'm not talking bad about the about the book. No, I don't think any serious brewer wants to just like copy someone else. You want to, I guess figure out a way to credit yourself for
Yeah.
being innovative but taking inspiration from someone else.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. Yeah. I always I think you know this, I'm a car guy, right? And I used to always sort of I think of beers in terms of certain cars. I know this is sort of weird, but I think there are certain beers out there that are sort of Ferrari like. You know, everybody wants to try it. It's a special experience when you have it. You kind of remember it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of brewers out there either think they're making Ferraris or only want to make Ferraris, right? But I always think that like the beers that I really want to be making are Datsun 240Zs, right? When
I don't even know what that is.
it's an old Datsun sports car, okay? But when it came out in 1970, it was like a massive revelation. Like no, everyone was like, "Holy fuck, what did the Japanese just make? This thing is fucking beautiful. It's fast, it handles well." It cost like a tenth of what a Ferrari at the time did, and it was totally competitive, right? But like just some dude who, sold insurance could afford one, you know? And if you drive one even today, man, you can get on, it'll just start up, gets great gas mileage, you can drive around town, no big fucking deal. But at some point, you are going to have the experience of like, fuck, this car is awesome. Long hood, it looks really sexy, the interior is amazing. Like at some point, you are going to be like, holy shit, I'm driving a 240Z. This is awesome. But most of the time, you're just like, okay, I got to go to the bank and then I got to the grocery store, right? And that's how I think about beer. Like the beer that I want to be drinking and making is actually that. I want to be able to sit with you in the pub, order a beer, and be like, so anyway, I was talking to blah blah blah, and we're drinking beer and whatever. And it's just it's there, it's doing its job. And at some point I want to go, fuck, by the way, this is really good. Anyway, how's your mom? You know, like it's funny. I don't really have that much interest in making these like super exceptional beers because I think beer is about people more than anything else, you know?
Well, what's your when you say exceptional? I mean,
Oh,
all right,
way.
let me back
Just
up.
a way.
Okay, but yeah, okay, thank you. That's different than what was in my head, right? Like we have an American light lager that we are,
Yeah,
really putting a lot of effort into, really
totally.
trying to dial that beer, and I want that to be exceptional, but it's never going to be the way that you just used the word exceptional, right? Nobody's
You
going to
want a
taste it and be
240Z.
like, yeah, nobody's going to say, oh my God, holy shit, I can't believe this. This is like,
Yeah,
the most mind blowing beer I've ever had. But
yeah.
yeah, sitting in a pub and drinking it and you get halfway through it and you can't believe you just drank half of a pint that quickly. And you're like, oh man, this is really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
But, but,
yeah,
but, but, but to me, that's my definition of exceptional for that beer. So I guess it depends on the individual beer.
yeah. But I mean, I don't know. There are people out there that think they're, I don't know, whatever the fuck. Regular pale ale is just so groundbreaking, you know? And there's those people who are just constantly fiddling, fiddling. You know what I mean? And all those people seem to always be doing it with recipe, and I'm always like, oh my God, process is so much more important. Why don't you just standardize your processes? Why don't you work on that for a while?
Yeah, I think we agree on a lot, man. That one I wholeheartedly believe in.
Yeah. But hold on, we're sort of running out of time. But this beer that you just mentioned, this light lager that you're making, I would like you to talk about that for just a second, because if my information is correct, I think you're doing something quite interesting from going back to our very initial part of this conversation about, uh, tradition, innovation, as well as, sort of industrial process, things like that, right? So that light lager, why don't you talk about your process for that?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a beer that's really evolved a ton over time. We've been making that since I think 2019. It's a completely different beer now, and it's honestly quite a bit different beer than it was about a year and a half ago. It's called Clubhouse Lager.
Mhm.
The concept there, really, when we reinvented it, was sort of this mix of things that I liked about uh, Coors Banquet and Miller
Mhm.
High Life, right?
Mhm.
And if I told you the recipe, you'd be like, oh, well, that doesn't have anything to do with either of those beers. But really, it's more just about the experience than about the inputs to it. But we do ferment that, what I guess we consider high gravity. So we ferment it to about 5%. And we post fermentation dilute it. And it's a 4% American light lager with a tiny bit of rice in it.
Hold on. I want more. I'm not going to copy you, but
No,
everyone
I don't
else is,
care. I mean,
everyone else
tell you,
is going
tell
to
you.
copy you.
No, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're
So,
open
so,
book. I'd tell you anything.
so the beer ferments, right? Has it? At what point are you diluting it?
So the at transfer to packaging tank.
Oh, right at the very, very end.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
are you are you are mixing deaerated water
Correct. Yep.
basically in the bright.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've kind of moved around from I don't know 25 to 40% dilution
Uh,
rate on that.
yeah, I mean that's like I don't remember who told me that you were making the beer that way. It might have been you. It might have been someone else. I don't know. Um, and I found that very, very interesting because uh, it is very well done. Like I think it's a very successful beer. I've had it more than once.
Thanks,
Um,
man.
yeah, it's really good. And I I find it very interesting. You're adapting this very large scale brewing technique to a much smaller system to get a very good result. And I think I know why you're doing it that way, but why did you choose to do this high gravity? What do you why? What's the
Yeah,
get?
I think there's what made us do it, and then there's why did we continue to do it. What made us do it was really, and I'm embarrassed, I'm completely spacing on the name of the author of the book Brewing Intensification. Um, really convinced us to like move in that direction and start trying things like that. Or I apologize to the author. And then the why did we continue to do it that way? Uh, fermenting a 11 and a half Plato wort with a lager strain is going to be a lot, a lot better fermentation, a lot more appropriate sulfur production.
Oh,
Generationally, your yeast is going to be a lot happier. And then also the beer just tastes better.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
moving a higher Plato wort through the brew house. We enjoy it a lot more. I think the end product is better.
I think it's such a great idea because you're really, to me, like I honestly I knew that's why you were doing it because you're a smart guy. I was like, oh Sam, that's really smart. Um, and I think it's great because you're taking this technique that's really about production capacity and time, right? And you're using that and moving it to a completely different space, which is really about quality and flavor, right? And to some extent, this is really to me the bridge between what industrial brewing has to offer and what craft has to offer. Is you're kind of uniting things back together. Um, I, I just think it's a great story. I'm glad I was able to goad you into talking about it.
Yeah. Thanks, man. And for the record, the increased production, obviously that's a great thing. But if the beer
Yeah,
wasn't as good, we wouldn't do it. We
yeah.
wouldn't just take that extra, that extra volume.
Yeah, well,
Um,
and from a business perspective, from just purely like you're a working brewer, I'm a working brewer, but I'm a business owner too. And from a business perspective, it's pretty brilliant because it allows you to reduce your labor costs per volume significantly, which allows you to compete in a different price space.
yep, exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well said.
while at the same time having all these flavor and craft benefits. It's a brilliant move. It's a really brilliant move.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got to give one quick plug on that beer. So for years that and I think you probably feel quite a bit differently than I do about this, but we enter a lot of competitions. I like it. I enjoy
Yeah.
it. I love judging. I love
Yeah.
the feedback. It's a useful tool for us.
Yeah.
So for years, that beer did horrible in competition, and it just won gold at World Beer Cup. This whenever that was month and a half ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
in American Light Lager, and the the major change we made on that is we pulled out a bunch of continental hops, um, and subbed in Vista, a public variety that's grown in the Pacific Northwest, and it's a little fruity, a little bit higher alpha, and it really brought the beer together. And we're super happy with the results, and it finally did go to competition. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You
that's
had to do your own thing.
tradition meeting evolution.
Yeah. You had to do your own thing, right? You had to put your own. You did your own North German Pilsner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I think we're sort of out of time here. Sam, thanks a lot. This was a lot of fun. We should go get a beer sometime soon.
Yeah,
Uh,
man, fan, super honored that you thought of me.
yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great. Well, Sam will be back on the next episode of this show as the host, having a conversation with a brewer of his choosing. That will be on the air in a couple of weeks, so make sure to tune in for that. A reminder, please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media. To support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. I'm Van Havig of Gigantic Brewing Company.
Sam Pecoraro of Von Ebert Brewing.
And thanks for listening to the Brewer to Brewer podcast. Cheers.
First Tea is your source for chamomile, hibiscus, ginger, and a whole host of herbs and botanicals. Whether you're working on a new experience or want to give your existing brews a boost, contact First Tea for the botanicals you need. Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA.com. Malt Europe Malting Company is proud to introduce the new Malteurop, grown and malted in Mexico. At Malt Europe, they're proud to be growing and producing malt in Mexico. They work hand in hand with Mexican farmers to ensure the best barley, which is then processed in their own local Mexico malt house to create this exceptional Malteurop. This product is a superior quality two-row base malt and provides consistent quality designed to satisfy your desire to brew a true Mexican lager. Contact Malt Europe today and visit malteuropemaltingco.com. If you're running a brewery, owner, or operator, Beer 30 by the Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and to receive 3 free months of Beer 30.